Thanks for watching this video on CEM's Ecosystem Restoration Thematic Group, or ERTG. My name's Kara Nelson. I'm a professor of restoration ecology at the University of Montana in the Western US, and I'm serving my second term as lead of CEM's ERTG. My newly onboarded co-lead is Emanuela Wiedlich, a Brazilian ecologist with the Federal University of Santa Catarina in southern Brazil. Also part of our core team is Brock Blevins, who served 2 four-year terms as co-lead of the ERTG and is now the regional chair for North America. Brock was really kind to stay on with the ERTG to support our webinar series. Brock works in the US for NASA's Applied Remote Sensing Training Program. My goal for this presentation is to give you an overview of the ERTG, starting with our objectives. So successful restoration requires understanding how ecosystems assemble, how they change over time, and how they respond to disturbance. But more than that, it requires being able to innovate that understanding into practice. So towards that end, the overall goal of the ERTG is to improve restoration practice by contributing technical guidance on restoration throughout the IUCN network, including commissions, secretariat programs, and members, and also to work with the global restoration community. A second objective is to host events that bring restoration experts together to share knowledge and to translate science into practice. The ERTG has 4 major planned activities that I'll present on for this intersession period. First is providing technical guidance to the UN Decade on ecosystem restoration. We began working as a Decade partner in 2020 prior to the launch, and specifically led the development of principles of ecosystem restoration, which were released last September. You may be asking, why was there a need to develop principles for the Decade? Well, the Decade aims to create a shared vision of ecosystem restoration, and in its definition, ecosystem restoration includes a wide variety of management activities that fall along what the Society for Ecological Restoration has defined as a restorative continuum. At one end of this continuum, on the left on my figure, restoration includes all kinds of management activities aimed at reducing societal impacts, such as runoff into streams. And then on the other end of the continuum, that's the right side of this figure, there's ecological restoration, which aims to remove degradation and recover ecosystems to the condition they would be in now had degradation not occurred. All of these activities, as defined by the Decade, are in some way restorative and part of ecosystem restoration. Although some management activities along the restorative continuum do have defined and published principles and standards of practice, like ecological restoration, forest landscape restoration, nature-based solutions, and others, there were not principles and standards to define the full restorative continuum, meaning all the activities considered ecosystem restoration by the Decade. The ERTG partnered with the FAO-led Best Practices Task Force of the Decade and the Society for Ecological Restoration to develop 10 guiding principles for the Decade, which were released last September. The next step for our collaboration is to lead the development of standards of practice for the Decade. Like the principles, they will be co-produced by the global restoration community, and our role is to capture ideas through stock taking, which we just completed as shown on this timeline, and getting inputs from experts during first a global forum, then through public, and then finally targeted consultations. Our plan is to release the standards of practice in October of this year. Engaging with the UN Decade is, of course, an important part of our overall work plan. And in addition to working on the principles and standards, The thematic group is also represented on several decade task forces, including best practices, monitoring, and science. A second planned activity for this intersession period is the IGNITE project, which aims to synthesize information on the relationship between ecosystem management and restoration and zoonotic diseases. The ERTG collaborated with members of the Human Health and Ecosystem Management thematic group, as well as the governance and rewilding groups, to develop a conceptual model and find relevant literature. We're now in the middle of synthesizing over 14,000 papers and expect to summarize findings by the last quarter of this year. The third activity is our Ecosystem Restoration Science and Practice webinar series. For the last 2 years, we've been holding webinars the third Friday of every month at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. You can visit the CEM webpage to get the registration link. Videos of webinars are posted on the CEM site as well as on YouTube, and if you subscribe on YouTube and select notifications, the bell icon, you'll get a message when new videos post. Please do get in touch if you'd like to present in the series or have ideas for presenters. The last planned activity that I want to mention is our Global Forum series. Since 2017, we've partnered with the Society for Ecological Restoration to host expert consultations. The last event was held virtually in 2021, and it was devoted to developing the principles. We're hosting another forum this month to get input on the standards of practice, and we'll host 2 more during this intersession period. I'm already over time, but want to use another minute just to thank you for joining me for this overview and to encourage you to please do get in touch so we can explore possibilities. I hope to meet you during the Connect the Dots event. Thank you.